At 29, Lydia felt behind. Not just a little behind, painfully behind. Her friends were getting married, having babies, posting smiling photos with captions like, God did it, and finally found my person. Now, every Sunday after service, conversations circled around weddings, engagements, and when is it your turn? She smiled. She laughed. She said God's timing is perfect. But inside, she was tired. She was tired of being the only one going home alone. She was tired of explaining why she was still single. She was tired of praying the same prayer with no visible answer. One evening, after yet another bridal shower invite popped up on her phone, Lydia sat on her bed and whispered, God, what about me? The silence that followed felt heavier than usual. Weeks later, during a quiet prayer, Lydia opened her Bible to a verse she had read many times before, but this time, it felt different. Be still, therefore. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Psalms 37 verse 7. She stared at it. Wait. Again. Not move. Not try harder. Not put yourself out there more. Wait. She closed the Bible slowly. I've been waiting, she said under her breath. But deep down, she knew something uncomfortable. She had been waiting physically, but not waiting spiritually. Her heart was restless. Her decisions were driven by fear. Her prayers were starting to sound more like demands. And still, the whisper came again. Wait. Daniel entered her life at the perfect time. Or at least, that's what it looked like. He was charming, attentive, and everything Lydia had prayed for on paper. He served in church, knew scriptures, and spoke confidently about his faith. The first time they spoke after service, he smiled and said, I've seen you around. You have a calm spirit about you. Lydia laughed softly. If only you knew. They started talking more. Coffee turned into long walks. Conversations became deeper. Within weeks, Daniel was texting her every morning. Good morning, woman of God. It felt right. It felt easy. It felt answered. But not everything was as perfect as it seemed. There were small things Lydia noticed. Tiny red flags she quickly brushed aside. Daniel didn't like being corrected. He got irritated when plans didn't go his way. He spoke about faith, but his actions didn't always align. One night, after he snapped at a waiter over something minor, Lydia felt that same familiar pause in her spirit. The quiet discomfort, that whisper. Slow down. She ignored it. It's nothing, she told herself. Everyone has flaws. Besides, she had waited long enough. A few weeks later, Lydia went to church expecting a normal Sunday, but the message felt like it was aimed directly at her. The pastor spoke about impatience, about how rushing ahead of God can lead to unnecessary pain. And then he said something that made her heart stop. Sometimes what looks like a blessing is actually a test of your obedience. Lydia shifted in her seat. Her hands felt cold. Her chest tightened. For a brief moment, she thought about Daniel. Then she quickly pushed the thought away. No, she told herself, this is different. But the whisper didn't leave. Wait. 3 months into the relationship, Daniel brought up marriage. Not casually, not as a future idea, but urgently. I don't believe in wasting time, he said. When you know, you know. Lydia's heart raced. This was it. Everything she had prayed for, everything she had waited for, everything she had cried about in the middle of the night. And yet, the same resistance rose in her spirit again. Stronger this time. Clearer. Wait. She hesitated. Can we take more time? She asked urgently. Daniel's expression changed. Why? He said. Do you not trust what God is doing? The question hit harder than it should have. Suddenly, waiting felt like disobedience, like doubt, like fear. And Lydia didn't want to seem faithless, so she did something she would later regret. She overrode the voice of God with the pressure of the moment. "Yes," she said. Everything moved quickly after that. Engagement within weeks, wedding planning immediately, no real time to pause, reflect, or even pray deeply. Oh, people celebrated her. Finally, God has answered. This is your season. Lydia smiled through it all. But late at night, when everything was quiet, she felt uneasy. She would lie awake and whisper, "God, is this really you?" And in the silence, there it was again. Wait. But now, it felt too late.
I can't take this.
Marriage didn't change Daniel. It revealed him. The small issues Lydia had ignored became bigger. His temper worsened. His controlling tendencies grew stronger. Conversations turned into arguments. He criticized her decisions. He dismissed her feelings, twisted scripture to justify his behavior.
How dare it say that?
Lydia felt trapped.
I can't
She felt
accept this.
confused. She felt heartbroken. How did I miss this? She cried one night. But deep down, she knew. Yes, she knew she hadn't missed it. She had ignored it. One evening, after a particularly painful argument, Lydia sat on the floor of her bedroom. Tears streamed down her face. Her heart was heavy with regret. And for the first time, she didn't try to defend her decision. She didn't justify it. She didn't blame anyone else. She simply said, God, you told me to wait. The room was silent, but this time, the silence felt different. Not distant, not cold, but present. And then she remembered another verse. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, and it will be given to him. James chapter 1 verses 5. Lydia realized something painful but freeing. God had spoken. She just didn't listen. The months that followed were difficult. They were emotionally draining, spiritually exhausting, mentally overwhelming. Lydia had to confront the reality of her decision. She had rushed. She had allowed pressure, fear, and impatience to override God's instruction. And now, she was living with the consequences. But even in the pain, God didn't leave her. Now, one morning, as Lydia sat quietly with her Bible, she came across a verse that made her pause. Psalms 34, verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. She whispered it out loud again and again. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they weren't just from pain, they were from relief. God hadn't abandoned her. Even in her disobedience, He stayed. Healing didn't happen overnight. Oh no, it didn't. It was slow. Painfully slow. There were days Lydia felt strong, and days she felt completely broken. But one thing changed. She started listening. Really listening. Not just for what she wanted God to say, but for what He was actually saying. She learned to pause, to discern, to surrender. Months later, Lydia sat in church again. Different seat, different heart, same God. But this time, when she heard the word wait, she didn't resist. She embraced it, because now she understood something she hadn't before. Waiting isn't punishment, it's protection. If Lydia could go back, she wouldn't just pray for the right person. She would pray for the patience to obey God's timing. Because rushing had cost her more than time. It had cost her peace, it had cost her clarity, and unnecessary pain. And even then, God redeemed her story. If you're watching this and you feel that same whisper, that same pause, that same quiet instruction to wait, don't ignore it. Don't rush. Don't let pressure speak louder than God, because what feels like delay might actually be protection. Psalms 27 verse 14 says, "Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." Lydia learned the hard way. You don't have to.